You know, I've always been interested in testing out the rocket stove design. So when the people over at Hot Ash offered to send me their new mini titanium version, I readily accepted. If you're interested in finding out what I learned about this stove, stay tuned. Okay, so to be clear, the people at Hot Ash did send me this stove free of charge for testing and review. I did not pay for this stove, and I also want to point out that I'm not receiving any other compensation from Hot Ash or anybody else for taking a look at this stove. All right, let's get down to talking about the stove. So the Hot Ash Mini Rocket Stove is the second stove produced by Hot Ash. They have an original stove, a first generation stove, which was a quite heavy stainless steel stove. That stove met the market with some mixed reviews. Some people very much enjoyed it, and other people just couldn't seem to get the hang of it and understand how it was supposed to work properly. Well, Hot Ash redesigned their stove, came out with the Mini in titanium, then took the improvements from this design and now have a second generation stainless steel stove, which is approximately twice the size of this, also available for sale. So, I am going to give you all the measurements, the weights, and everything else, as well as the links to where you can purchase this stove and find out more about it. But I wanted to give you a quick overview because we're going to go out into the woods shortly to give it a good real-world test. Okay, very quickly, let's go over the assembly of the stove, and then we'll take it out into the woods and do some testing. Before I do, though, I wanted to show you, this also came with the stove. It is a cotton sack. It's one of those little backpack styles. It has two strings that allows you to carry it on your back, I guess, if you wanted to. I think the intent for this is something that you could take with you in the woods to collect up your sticks that you're going to be using for fuel. So it is quite good. Actually, I've used it for that when I have taken it out into the woods, but I don't carry it on my back, obviously. I just use it as a drawstring stuff sack at the top, and I can carry quite a bit of tinder and fuel in this stove. So put that aside. Now, here's the stove, and it's fully compact, ready to carry configuration. I do have a little stuff sack that I made for this. I just put that aside. It's not part of the review necessarily. And the only reason I made a stuff sack for it is because there's a little bit of ash will follow to this after you've put it back together after a use. And I just wanted to keep my backpack clean, of course. So to get started with this, you start by, on the end, and on each end, in fact, there is a wing bolt. A wing bolt holding the assembly together, and those are vital to the assembly of this stove, but right now they're holding it together in the closed position. So we'll take that one off. And I'll set it aside, and I'll slide the stove into two sections. We'll put the chimney aside for a second, and then this portion is where the other items are stowed. So we have the cross stand pieces, we have the aluminum feed ramp, and we have the aluminum back support legs that keep it stable. So here is the main part of the stove. Well, I guess you can call both of these the main part of the stove, but this is the burn chamber. And will show you the diagram and how the airflow goes through this, but I just wanted to see if I could give you a bit of a close-up so that you can see how this works. So this is where the wood on top of the feed ramp, and I'll show you again in the assembled configuration, your wood will be sliding in through here at an angle, and it will come to the back here where the burn chamber is. And on the sides you can see there are air holes here, so that there is a false floor in the bottom of the burn chamber, so the air can come in here, underneath, and then up through these holes here. And that air is warmed as it goes and then flows up the chimney to get that a chimney effect that goes with it. So here is the second wing bolt. Put that aside. And now I'll tell you right now, these do concern me. I haven't looked to see if I can find replacements for them, and I know you can probably find a properly threaded regular bolt that'll work for this purpose, but it does concern me. In using this out in the woods, each time I use it, I make sure I'm doing it in a place where if I drop one of these, I'm going to be able to find it. Actually, the ideal thing to do, spread the bag out and then assemble it on top of that. That if you drop one of the bolts, you're not going to lose them. So they do concern me a little bit that I might lose those, so it'd be good to have a few extras, at least one extra with you when you go out into the woods, because to be quite honest, the stove's not going to go together without them. All right, so the assembly of the stove. Two components, and they go together like that. That's it. Well, that's not it. You do have to put the rest of the components on it. So let's put the back legs on. Get that started. I also recognize that doing this in the woods, not easy to do with gloves on either. So I do take my gloves off to do that. So that's the back legs. And at this end we have a feed ramp which also acts as the front leg to keep it off of the ground. Now right here there's a little tiny notch that matches a little protrusion on the feed ramp. So that lines it up and locks it into position. And then you finish the assembly with the wing nut, or wing bolt, sorry. Okay, assembled. The only thing that I haven't put on right now is the titanium cross stands, which go on top of the stove to offer support for larger pots. Okay, so there's the stove fully assembled. Now we're ready to take it into the woods. Let's give it a test and see how it works. Okay, so I've set my stove up in a little fire pit here. You can see that there's snow all around. So this is going to be a good test of the Hot Ash Mini Titanium Stove. My experiments so far with it have been mostly in my backyard. I have used it a few times, maybe half a dozen times, out in the woods, but this is the first time I've actually used it in the snow. Yeah, I've used it in some colder temperatures, but not in below zero temperatures. So we'll see if it can reach the dynamic to bring some water to a boil. So here's what I have discovered so far about loading and using the Hot Ash Mini. I don't know if this is true of all rocket stoves. This is the only rocket stove that I've used so far. And I can't find a lot of good instructions on how to use a rocket stove, but here's what I've discovered through my own testing. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in some sticks. These are a little bit bigger, and you can see that's about 10 inches long. And I have 3 of those that I'll put in, and these are going to be my feed sticks, so to speak. I have discovered you don't want too many in there. Don't cram them in so that there's no air can get past them. And I will show you a diagram on how this stove works, and of course I have shown you the physical nature of the stove and how the air flows under the wood and up the chimney. But what happens is the wood will not go all the way into the back of the chamber because there is another part of the stove that slants down. It does have airflow in it, and that's where the air will come in under the wood and up the chimney. Now, what I have discovered is that I like lighting it from the top, so I am going to drop some of this. This is the Hanger 51, what do they call this, fire strip roll. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. You know, it works really well for what it is. It does not take a spark from a ferro rod without a lot of preparation, but I am going to be lighting this with just a small lighter today. So what I want to have ready is a lot of small stuff because I am going to feed it to start with from the top, down the chimney. This is what I found seems to work the best. So I have a good supply of small sticks I just pulled off of the trees right here, all softwood. And not all snapping the way you would like to have it snap, but it is what it is. This is supposed to be a real world test. That's got a little ice on it. Oh well, this may not be an ideal condition test, but then again, that's what I wanted to know. Can I just take this out, put it in my backpack, take it out, and use it to cook some lunch or make some coffee? So I have a few small sticks sitting here. I'm going to light this, put my pot aside for a second. Like this, drop it down in the chamber. Wrap it up a little bit. The elastic off my lighter. There we go. Again, I'm just dropping my fire starter right down inside, and I'm going to drop some sticks right in on top of the fire starter, down the chimney. So again, you don't see a lot of instruction on how to do this, so is this the right way? Is there a right way? Or better yet, is there a wrong way? This has been working for me to get the fire started. So we'll see what happens here. Come on. Alright, that's not looking too good already. The fire starter went out before I even got a fire going. Alright, let's set it up again. Yeah, right, take two. Maybe I'll put a few sticks down inside first. Throw my fire lighter on top of that, and then a few more to follow. Picking out a few more of the drier ones. You know, I have heard complaints, not about this stove because it's relatively new to the market, but I have heard complaints from a number of people that they're not only difficult to light, they don't produce a lot of heat. Honestly, so far, my experience has been like that. I haven't given up on it, but in my own experiments using softwood, I had trouble getting water to a boil. Using dry split hardwood, no problem getting water to a boil. So, all right, now we'll light some up again. See if we can't get this fire going. A little bit cold. There. Ah, maybe it's my fire starter. There we go. Continue to feed in what I consider dry anyway. So in getting ready for this fire, I took a little walk around the woods here, went in as deep as I could on some of the bigger trees to try and find the driest of twigs, made sure that they had snap, indicating that they were dry. But what I'm found is, well, this is true of all small stoves, but this one in particular, small stoves in general, the smaller they are, the faster they'll seem to go through wood. And you know, the concept of making sure you have more than enough wood. So when you think you have enough wood to cook your lunch, collect twice as much. And in so doing, you should be able to keep it going. It's better than going looking for wood when you're halfway through cooking your lunch. Okay, I can see flames down inside, but it is slow. It is slow right now. Any of this dry? That one is. If you can, if you have the choice, and I have set it up this way, the front of the stove here is got, well, it's facing into the north breeze. Now there's not much of a breeze. I'm in a little sheltered piece of woods, at least from the north breeze I am. Okay, yeah, starting to catch on now. But having a breeze come in underneath your wood here should help with the burn. Alright, we do have a burn going now. A little better on the second go around. I'm not quite satisfied it's going well enough yet to put a pot on. Letting the video run in real time to give an indication exactly what it takes to get this little stove going. And the reason I put the 3 larger sticks in first is I want the coals from the chimney fire to fall down onto those sticks, and then these will light up and I can continue to push them in. So I should have a combination of feeding it. Ideally, this stove is designed so that you feed sticks in through this ramp. It's designed at the ideal angle for wood to come in. But I'm finding that using it and feeding it from both directions is probably the better way to go. Now you'll notice I did not put the titanium crossbars on that come with the stove. And I did that for a reason. It makes this top feeding a lot more difficult to do. And for the pot I have, I don't need it. Hey, we're seeing some chimney effect going on now. I know the sun is coming up. I'm hoping that it's not whiting out everything here, but I have a good flame coming up through. Very little smoke. Test to see if these are feeding yet. They're not burning yet. The bottom ones, that is. But I think I have enough now enough confidence to put my pot on. All right, where's my water? I'm going to be cooking a soup today. So, there's the pot. The Camel Will 1.2 liter stainless steel pot. Still doing some testing on that. Still liking it. Still working out quite well. So I have 450 mils, according to the markings on the side. And let's put that on. All right, still burning well. Good. Okay, I may cut away here as this continues to heat my water up. Let's see, I'm just going to give it a rough time to see what I have. I'll give you an idea about how long it took to bring it to a boil. I'm not doing a speed test on it to see just how long it will, but you know, just a rough idea. So I'll bring you back when my water's boiling, and I'm going to add my lunch. All right, it's been almost 15 minutes since I put the pot on the stove, and I will tell you that I've spent almost every one of those 15 minutes working to keep this fire going. It's going, but not with any intensity. It does seem to want to eat the wood, but it's not producing a tremendous amount of heat. I want to show you something, that a little trick that just is helping it along. I think without this I would have been in more trouble. Find some nice dry sticks to put in. You can see how much smoke is being generated now. That gives you an indication that it's not going well. Actually, I don't see any flames at all down there now. But I did bring along my DIY pocket bellows, and that can make a huge difference here. So I can get heat up the chimney by doing that, but I don't consider that a really sustainable way of managing a fire. I didn't expect this to be maintenance free, but I think I would have liked it to have been more self-sustaining than this. So my water has not come to a rolling boil. It is bubbling on the bottom, and I am going to add my lunch to it. If this is water I pulled out of a stream, I think now I would consider it ready to eat, but or ready to use. But not getting the heat to get a really good, fast rolling boil. It is a small stove, and I expect it to, you know, a lot of maintenance that way, but maybe not this much. All right, let me add my lunch here. Try not to make the mistake I made in my last woods video where I made too much from my bowl. I'll be using a different bowl today anyway. Oh, I don't know, folks. I've had some good results with this stove, and I've had results like this as well, where I've struggled more to keep the fire going than I feel I should. So I am going to work with this. I think I will turn the video off for a few minutes so I can work to make my lunch. If there's anything more interest in this, I'll turn the video back on. Otherwise, I'll bring it back on for some closing comments. Okay, I don't know quite what to say about the Hot Ash Mini Titanium Stove. I really wanted to like this stove. I liked its lightweight, the compactness, the concept of a rocket stove. It really does appear to be well designed. And as I've said, I have had some successes with it, but that was with ideal wood, hardwood split out from known firewood that was dry. So it will work under the ideal conditions, but as you saw today, it didn't work for me in these 0 degree, well, that 32 degree Fahrenheit conditions here on a sunny day, picking out some dry under branches from spruce trees primarily. I couldn't keep a fire going, couldn't keep it sustained, barely brought water to a boil, certainly not a hard rolling boil, and that was after 15 or 20 minutes. I cannot recommend this stove at this time. I know that there is a larger version of this stove made in stainless steel. It's a generation 2 of their original, so it's about half the weight and incorporates a lot of the improvements that the Mini has. I don't have that one to test. I would like to test that. But this little tiny stove, I think it just doesn't have the critical mass and the airflow, for whatever reason, because it should, to have a good sustainable fire in. I couldn't do anything else other than feed it. Now, just to be fair, I lit it with some longer sticks in through the feed ramp here. I put in some commercial fire lighter down on top. I put in some dry, tiny sticks to get a bit of a chimney fire going, to get a draw going through the stove. That seemed to work, but then it died down. I did have to use my homemade pocket bellows quite a few times, in fact, to get any heat going in it. When I left it to burn on its own, and the wood in the chimney had disappeared, the fire would work its way back up the steps, and it would keep itself sustained to a degree. It did. I mean, it'd have to be constantly pushing them in. But I wasn't seeing the heat come up the chimney that should have been. All right, I'm going to open this up because, to be quite honest, I've burnt this maybe a dozen times so far. I've had as many failures as I've had successes with it, but I want to open it up to you. What do you think is the right way to use this little rocket stove? Is it, in fact, something that I should continue testing? At this point, I'm kind of, I don't know. I will play with it some more. I will try to get the most out of it, but at this point, I cannot recommend this as a small wood stove that you could take with you in the woods without having something else to use. Yes, I could have built a regular fire today. That would have taken more time. The whole concept of a small wood stove is something that you can stop, quickly grab a few branches, not a lot, get a good fire going, get some heat going, get some water on for a boil, either for a cup of coffee, tea, or to cook a lunch like I did today. I didn't even stop to make coffee with this. It was going to be too much work to get another little fire going in order to make coffee. Okay, I don't know what else to say at this point, folks, but I'm going to open it up to you. If you have any comments on this little stove, then by all means place them in the show notes below. If I get some good suggestions that I have, like I have in the past with other stove, I'll be sure to come back and do another video. But until that time, get out and explore. Take that path less traveled. It'll make all the difference. Bye for now.